marvelous one.
Yeah.
I guess we have to do it. Let's go to Wrigley Field. Our Chicago Cubs. I know our brethren in Paul and Devin are suffering over on the South Side too, but at least there's a little bit more hopefulness when you see that lineup. This Cubs pitching staff just not doing it. And hitting around all of Major League Baseball isn't been good, but this team's getting blown out night after night. They're losing to teams they shouldn't be losing to. And I'm sitting here wondering, like, okay, I know this is only a few weeks in, but what is this team? This is a team that has professionals on it. So is it just going to be they're going to have to just score a lot of runs because they don't have Marcus Stroman isn't proving what we thought he would be, or not yet because it's so early in the season. Kyle Hendricks, a shell of himself, quote unquote, a shell of himself, still the professor. But I mean, what are your thoughts of what we're seeing with the Northsiders?
Well, last week on Sunday, we were talking about the overwhelming 21-0 victory behind Hendricks.
Yeah.
And it looked like Hendricks was back to his old self, even though they did lose 3 out of 4. And then they went to Atlanta and didn't do well there. And they've lost 2 now to Milwaukee. I thought that they were in pretty good shape in the pitching staff, but it doesn't look that way now. It started out that they had, good, when they get to the closer, you had Givens and perhaps Robertson and Wick. I mean, seemed to be doing the job when you get to that point, but now the starters have been failing, and so that's a problem. And so right now, I mean, obviously they're gonna have to pair a couple players tomorrow. I guess the rosters go from 28 to 26, so they'll get rid of some of those pitchers. I mean, St. John's probably one of them because he was hammered last night, so he's gone. But they'll drop a couple pitchers, and maybe the remaining pitching staff. Stroman, certainly, like you say, he was the prize pick supposedly, and he hasn't shown anything. Hendricks will be okay eventually. I mean, he had a bad outing, but he did have that shutout last Saturday, so I'm not terribly worried about him. It's just some of the others. I mean, at first it looked like they were going to get some production out of some of the other pitchers that they got, but that's sort of taken a turn for the worse with with the last week. So now they have they have the crosstown series this week. A couple games against the White Sox at Wrigley before the Dodgers come in. So it's not going to get any easier.
Get right game for the White Sox, huh?
Yeah, Jeez. right. They played 2 games at Wrigley. It kind of bothers me that now in Chicago here, by the way, we don't have an announcer that's the local flavor on both sides. That Benetti now is going to do the Sunday game on Peacock. I don't know if you're aware of that. So now we won't have on Sunday because on the north side he does the Sunday night baseball on ESPN. On the south side now Benetti won't be around. It's good to have backups, like Casper on one side of town. He'll probably do the TV, and then you have, of course, Hughes. So, but I think that weakens. I like to have a consistent broadcast. So now we have 2 guys that are national broadcasters that are doing the local games, and I'd rather have the old days. Not like a brick house or whatever, but I just don't like the rotating. Beth Mowens and whatever, you get all these people that do the Cubs games. I don't know what they're going to do on the south side, because starting with next Sunday, you're going to have Benetti doing the Peacock game every Sunday. So that bothers me, when you don't have the local flavor on a consistent basis. So that's just an aside. But in terms of the Cubs, it looks like the Cubs are what we thought they'd be. They're not going to be a 500 team. They're not going to make the playoffs. And anything else is a pipe dream. It looked like we have to wait to see if any of these young players they got for their superstars pan out. For Armstrong or whoever, he seems to be doing okay in the minors, but it looks like it's going to be a while before they're back to where they might have been, had they been able to sign some of the players that left. But it looks like they're doing okay. Rizzo, multiple home runs, Baez a bunch of RBIs, so those guys are still doing fine, and Bryant's Bryant. So those 3 guys are gone, and the memories of 2016 prevail, but it doesn't look like they're going to be winning any World Series in the next few years for sure.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, I think for me, if you're a Cub fan, the one thing you have to look forward to is just there's a lot of talent in the minor league system. Seiya Suzuki looks like he's a real ball player, and you just flash in the pan here and there, and you get lucky here and there, and next thing you know, 2 years from now, you're competing in a bad NL Central, and that's all you need to do. I think one of the other things that I'm coming to terms with, this one's going to hurt me the most because just like all the other guys, I'm rooting for them. I've accepted that they were long gone a long time ago. Same thing with this guy. It's been prolonged for so long. Wilson Contreras, a 30-year-old catcher, beloved in this city, awesome at so many things. He's the next guy that will be gone, and they will get a nice package for him, as nice as they can, and that's okay. That's okay. The window has closed, and he's a luxury to have for a championship team. It can't be the catalyst of a rebuild. It's hard for a catcher like that. Not everybody's Yadi Molina, and not every organization's like the Cardinals, where they were able to sustain for so long because the rest of the NL Central was so hot garbage. It's not the case anymore. People are competitive now. I will also leave you with this one, Marvelous, as we kind of head out over here on this fun conversation we had on the Sports Cubicle. It is a bummer that we don't have the days of constant companionship of our play-by-play guy and whatnot. But in today's market and today's sports watching, I would count it almost as we do for our actual players when they become all-stars. We are so fortunate in Chicago to have a Benetti and a Boog and Adam Amin and Pat Foley for so long, where they are nationally beloved as well. And we get other cities to be like, man, they got a cool home call. It's like every Sunday nights or every time they put on Peacock, Benetti is so good at calling all sports that White Sox fans can be like, that's our guy. Boog calls such a great baseball game that we get to say that's our guy. Adam Amin should be calling the number one call in the NFL. And we get to hear him with Stacey King in a very fun NBA season. So I agree with you. There is something so tangible about having them every single day. If you want to look on the bright side, it is also cool to kind of share them with the world and be like, hey, this is our guy. Marvelous one. Any final thoughts for this week and right. That kind of thought?
I guess it's hard to say that they're the homers, like the, even look up north of Bob Uecker, for 50 years or something,
I get that.
Clearly a homer, so you lose that feeling. You don't get the, but it's a different world. I understand that. And these guys, who else would you have got? You probably would have got another guy that had shared responsibilities if they're any good. So that's the way it is right now. So, I'll accept it. It's just that, it's the substitute sometimes that irk me, because they're not quality like the guys that we normally have.
Yeah, and it's you and I and Paul and Devin, we know how tough of a gig it is to just do simple old sports radio, let alone call some of these games. But we are so spoiled in this city. And I think you and I always talk about it, how it's just quality. And that's how good the quality is, that when they're gone, we're like, geez, and it's hard things to just imagine what Zach Zaidman's going to have to go through when Pat retires. And we know how quality of an announcer and a good guy Zach is. So that's why we're so spoiled. And we're so spoiled to have all of you, to have the marvelous one, Dan Marver, Paul Chivari, Devin Tingle, and all our listeners here on the Sports Cubicle. What have you thought about everything we talked about today with the marvelous one? Let us know. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. We got a jam-packed show ready today. Make sure you're following us all over the universe. Make sure you're following us Monday through Friday. Santia Jackson, Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, Patty Vasquez, and, of course, Joan Esposito. It's Dan Marver. It's Devin Tingle. It's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado.